A very good afternoon to Dr. Kwa Chi Pyong and our dear classmates. We in Group 1 have a try to complete the given assignment. Besides that, we have also used internet source to find a material related to given a title. As a promise, today we will give a presentation under the title Whose Money Is It? Before we start, we will tell you a case related to the business that we have studied. Giving tips has become common in American restaurants until it became a significant part of many food servers' total compensation. Total tips that have been given by customers vary and depends on how excellent their service and performance. Charlie Restaurant is no exception in allowing tips for their serve, but they reserve low payment in exchange. However, the distribution of the tips can cause dissatisfaction as only the server receive it, not the staff who work behind the counter. Sign the serve value their teammate. They are willing to share the tips to the best buzzer. Because of this, some restaurants make a tip pooling plan to create equality between employees. However, for Kathy, who worked as a server at Charlie, she thinks the tips pooling plan was unfair because Charlie included the kitchen staff in the tips pool. Furthermore, at the Charlie, the kitchen serve receives 70% of the tips, even though the pay rate per hour in Charlie are high than other restaurants. She still cannot accept when her money that she receives is being given to other people who do not contribute as much as her. As a result, Kathy decided to file suit toward Charlie by claiming that they violated the FLSA by giving the cook and dishwasher the tips money. What I get the point at this article is number one is FLSA is meaning stand for Free Labor Standard 8. In addition, the FLSA can help a business thrive because of the attitude of employers always care about the rights of employees. Indirectly, employers will always be responsible for performing their job. Number two is tips. Tip is meaning to ensure proper service. A restaurant business should always do the best service for customer. Among the sentences that are often heard in making business successful is the customer always right. Tip pooling. Tip pooling is a form of tip distribution where tips are aggregated into a collective pool and then divided among a group of tip included employees. Tip pooling can work for business where certain employees interact directly with a customer, while others are equally working on the other but never interact with a customer. Employers interact directly, for example, a server, counterkeeper, and cashier, regularly working on the order, but never interacting with the customer. For example, is cookers, dishwasher, and cleaner. Work done as a group if directly business restaurant run very smoothly. Um, and And last, a supervisor can divide the tips money with a different way, such as split by hour work in a full work day or hour work in a business shift. They also can split the tips to different tips pool, like split tips for food order and so. Therefore, a tip can also pay employers which more fairly based on the scope of work. indirectly can create a good relationship between employer and employees. That's all from me. Let's move on to part two.
Based on the case related, we can see that there is a few problems. The first problem is Kathy is unhappy because the staff kitchen also received the tips. Recognizing the importance of the entire service team, servers often share a portion of their tip with buser. Some restaurants have started implementing tips pooling plan to address the issue of inequity. This plan allows servers to pool their tips and distribute them according to the established allocation formulas. As far as Kathy was concerned, she was not happy about the kitchen staff being included in the tips pool. She didn't mind sharing her tips with the other server, but she eventually decided to draw the line on sharing with the dishwasher and cookers. When Kathy was employed, she was aware of Charlie's custom of giving the kitchen workers the remaining 70% of the post tip while the server received just 30% in accordance to the hours worked. Because Charlie's hours income was $2.10 more than the federal minimum wage, she had agreed to the concept. But when she wis- but when she witnessed the process of her hard labor being stolen from her and given to those out of sight individuals, it was too much for her to bear. The second problem is the server be pay less just because they may receive tip from customer. According to custom and practice, consumers normally leave a tips between 50% and 20% of the total bill. Tip for quick, friendly, and effective service during a busy mealtime could be quite beneficial, based on the supposition that servers receive tips from patron establishments like Charlie were permitted to collect a tip credit under the Fair Labor Standards Act and pay servers less than the federally mandated minimum wage. In an effort to obtain her money back, Katie sued Charles. Katie claimed that Charles had violated the FLSA even though it had paid her more than the legal minimum wage. Although Charles had not claimed a tip credit, she stated that participation in the tip pool was not common for cookers and dishwashers. The third problem is the server feel unfair by the tip pooling plan. No matter how tips are done, it seems like there is always someone who is not happy. For one server at Charlie's, Katie, dissatisfaction would be putting it politely. She could not take it anymore. She was totally upset. She had come to the conclusion that Charlie's tip pooling policy was unfair and she was now taking steps to ensure that she would be treated fairly. The last problem is Charlie thinks that the implemented plan is fair for its employees. Although it may seem like a simple practice, giving it can be a cause for dissatisfaction and concern. When servers receive all the money left on the table, they are satisfied, but the kitchen staff, busser, and greeter may feel left out. That's all for me. Let's move on to the next member.
We can see there are quite a few complaints from employers because of tip money. As employers, of course, we want our complaints to be taken care of and solved. So here, we have prepared some alternatives that can be implemented to solve the problems that happen because of it. First one is abolish the tip pooling plan. When this plan no longer exists, we can avoid trouble to divide the tips between the employees. Restaurant owners are no longer worried that there will be a sense of injustice in the service. In that, when this plan is abolished, the tips earned by the restaurant are no longer distributed equally to all employees from each department. However, tips will be shared among those who are eligible, especially those who work in the service department. But this can cause feelings of jealousy and dissatisfaction arise among workers. This happens because others don't receive the tips anymore, only those who did servicing did. For servers, they think they should receive all the tips because the majority of the customers will give more tips when they are satisfied with the restaurant's treatment. Yet, kitchen staff also feel they deserve the tips too. If you think logically, not only good services make a happy customer, good food also plays a main role. But as mentioned, kitchen staff also deserve the tips money, even though they communicate indirectly with customers. They communicate with the dishes that they cook hurtfully. Second, pay equal payment or pay a reasonable salary to employers. When the employers receive a good salary, they are not greedy to pursue their target money for the day. When they get a reasonable salary with the scope of work, they will feel enough. When the salary given is high, they will not care too much about the tip money. If there is, there is. If not, then their salary will not be affected. But this does not mean that the quality of the employers will increase. When the wage rate is fixed, workers are less motivated to work better and refuse to do extra work. This is because nothing can motivate them. They will only do the assigned work and are lazy to do the work that they feel is not their job. Employers also do not want to work more because they know they will not be pay rise. So when there is a tip fund, they realize there is an opportunity to earn more money, and that is why they will work harder and improve their service. The third alternative that we can share is business owners can distribute tips to employers equally. Employers will not compete for the tip money because everyone gets the same amount. The employer can divide the tip money earned on the day equally to all employers. By law, the employer cannot take the money. Tip pooling can strengthen the working relationship between employers as they work together to improve the customer experience. As for the employer having divided the tip fairly, the employer who get paid less than others will feel a little unfair. They will see higher paid workers getting paid more than them. But this is avoidable because the different salary rates depend on the scope of each job. Those who are given more difficult tasks deserve a higher salary. But this method can be fair if all employers take turns to work in different part of the day or every week. So if any of you wonders, is tip money counted as salary? Yes, when that money was collected first and the owner distributed them to workers. On the other hand, if employers receive the tips directly from the customer, for example, they receive it when they deliver food to the table, it counted as gift and they can keep it for themselves. Means they cannot share the money tips to others. Last but not least, employers need to be courageous and express their dissatisfaction to superiors. When we send a report, the superiors will take action to solve the problem. There are some cases where the superiors do not know the problem faced by their employers. However, employers must convey all their complaints in a proper and good manner so that superiors feel honored to help. However, this method depends on the concern of the owner himself. Workers depend on luck whether their voices are heard or ignored. Even so, this action may infuriate the kitchen staff because the advantage will be withdrawn. Who doesn't get angry when you lose some side income money, even if it is a small amount? This can lead to employee revolt because their rights are also taken away, and this absolutely can affect the restaurant. Charlie's restaurant, as we can see, did not break the law because they distribute the tip money to all employees. However, the cause of this problem is when employers are not satisfied with the amount distributed.
The preferred alternative is pay equal pay or pay a reasonable salary to employees. Pay equal pay to employees can avoid injustice in the service. Everyone receives an equal salary so that they will not think they deserve the tips. The alternative can be applied for the same job only. For example, the kitchen staff deserve same salary among other kitchen staff. The alternative The alternative pay a reasonable salary to employees means that they deserve salary for what they work for. For example, there are the different salary between between kitchen staff and the servers. It is because their jobs are different. The energy and the time they put in the work is different. So to make it more fair, every job should have high pay for employees so that they will feel enough and doesn't depend on tips. So I think this problem can be solved by pay equal pay or pay a reasonable salary to employees. The plan of action of pay equal pay or pay a reasonable salary. To pay equal pay or to pay a reasonable salary, the supervisor should set reasonable salary for each work. Each work will set with different salary. The supervisor also need to explain to employee how much salary they will receive depends on what they work for, so that the employees will understand and accept the offer. When supervisors set a high and reasonable salary, there is no issue that employees are not have enough money. So when the supervisors set a high and reasonable salary, the employees are eligible to receive tips. Okay, this rule should be applied at work because the employee will take opportunity to take the tips from the customer. The supervisor should find the employees who doesn't follow the rules, or should take action for the employees that doesn't follow the rule, so that when the salary is high, the employees doesn't feel they need tips. The employee will be more aware and disciplined to do not accept the tips. So that the employee who apply for job should accept the amount of salary that be set by the supervisor and rules for what they work for. So the tips problem can be solved when the supervisor set a high salary for each work. Thank you. That's all from me. In conclusion, we have agreed that the payment of wages, appropriate work, is the best way to solve this problem. When they satisfy with the salary, the tips earned are not a big problem for them. However, as employees, we cannot take tips lightly. Based on the 2020 tip final rule, tip regulation under the Fair Labor Standard Act (FLSA), it states that employee will collect tip to facilitate mandatory tip collection. Generally, must redistribute the tips in full in the pay period. Even if the workers are no longer complain about tips and receive good wages, employees cannot take the money for their own use. He must do as the law directs. Thank you. That's all from us.
That is all from us. Thank you for your attention.